Just a little bit about myself. My name is Xavier Gamez. I am the Becker account manager in Northern California. Amy is Southern California. So Amy and I have been working together for a while, which is great. And
Hey Xavier,
oh,
I'm back on. Thanks so much.
oh, hey, and I have to apologize about my camera. My camera's not working, or else I would be on camera. So, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Just basic. Why a CPA? Why not? Right. My answer is always why not. You guys are putting so much work into going to this position that you're going to be into, right? You're getting all these units done, credits, everything that you need. That you've been in school since you've been in kindergarten. You probably haven't stopped going, right? So why stop there? This is to benefit you. The benefit of a CPA, I mean, yeah, we can talk about the money that you can earn. We can talk about the employment opportunities. Really, honestly, the thing that matters most is it's for you. This is investing in yourself, improving yourself, and the outcomes are going to be way better when you're done, right? This is something that once you have it, you always have it, and so it'll open up opportunities everywhere. You can go into business yourself. You can do anything that you want to do with this thing, and you can branch out to teaching. So there's so much you can do. So I always ask the question, why not? This exam is not an IQ test. It is an effort exam. The amount of time, the amount of sacrifice, things that you put into this exam is going to dictate whether you pass or you don't, right? You guys are all intelligent. You wouldn't be at CSUN. You wouldn't be in college if you weren't. You're here for a reason. So why not, right? Go through it. So that's the answer to why a CPA, why not? So just a little bit of examples of CPA or of accounting. There's numerous amount of accounting careers. So if someone's the idea of, I don't really want to go into tax, or I don't want to go into audit, there's other things that you can do. And you can see, and I put this up for fun. There's environmental accounting careers, forensic accounting careers. It's global accounting careers. If you want a position where you get a chance to travel, accounting is the absolute perfect position to do that. And, speaking from Amy and myself, I get to travel well, not with COVID. With COVID, I'm at home. But besides that, normally we're gone at least out of state once a month. We're traveling 3 to 4 days a week. So we know we get to see different things and do different things with the accountants in the accounting world. So I could only imagine what it's like being an accountant and traveling. So it could be a lot of fun if you make it that way. Just some famous accountants. You see, we have Philip Knight, Kenny G. Anybody know Kenny G? No, you never listen to Christmas time. You'll probably hear him, but Kenny G's. He was big in the late 80s, for those that were with the 80s. Chuck Liddell, you guys watch UFC. I had no idea that he went to Cal Poly in an accounting program, which is great. Arthur Blank, you got Chris Moneymaker, Cynthia Cooper. So there's a lot of people that decide to do other things besides accounting. We always try to show that. Even our main accounting instructor, his name is Peter Olinto, and you may have seen commercials of him on YouTube. For some reason, they attract anybody that works in the accounting world. But he's actually a lawyer as well. So he combines his CPA with his law degree, and it works out perfectly for him. Now, the steps to becoming a CPA, there's 5 main steps. We're going to cover them briefly as we go through this, but step number 1, meet the educational requirements, right? You can't take the exam, you can't sit for the exam, and you can't be licensed unless you do. Step 2, apply to take the CPA exam. So basically submitting your application to the California Board of Accountancy if you're applying within California. Step 3, to me, is the most important part of all of these steps, is study for the exam. Basically, the only thing that's pretty much solely on you is studying, right? This is where you have to dictate your schedule. And I know it sounds a little preachy. I don't want to be a preacher, here, but I am able to talk to employees of Big 4 firms, Global 7, and they always discuss with me that they haven't passed the exam. There's certain things they need assistance with. Maybe they want to get in hold of our success coaches, one-on-one tutoring, whatever it may be. But I always ask them, what is the one thing that I can share with other students in college, with anybody at a firm that's going through the process? What is it that you think about your study or your habits or whatever it may be that made you not pass? And it's just always effort. At 9.5 times out of 10, I just lacked the effort. I started out well, things got in the way, work got in the way, life got in the way, and I just wasn't able to stick with it. So just know that study for the exam is the most important and I think the most difficult because it's on you. Step 4, schedule the exam. And step 5, you can't forget to succeed. All right. So let's go over step 1. I don't have it on this slide because I want to show it on the actual website over here. Excuse me for a second, right here. So everyone has seen this tip sheet, correct? Okay, now, are there, before I go into detail or anything like that, I don't need to, are there any questions on this form that anyone has that could possibly help them? And
I have
Amy,
a quick question.
Perfect. And Amy, you want to check chat for me too? Yeah, go ahead, go with your question, Adi.
Yeah, so I'm coming from a community college and I took accounting classes that were 5 units. And I know at CSUN, it's a university, all the accounting classes are 3 units. I was wondering if maybe, I don't know, if maybe you can help me if you know, or I can find out if those 5 units count as 5 units or 3 units or...
Great question. Now, are those units, were they quarter or were they semester?
Semester.
Okay, yes, they count. Now, for example, if you take it from a city college and then you transfer them into CSUN per se, CSUN only takes the units that CSUN needs, but it doesn't mean that you haven't completed the hours that were needed in your community college. So you did 5 credits worth of accounting classes. So when you fill out your application to the California Board of Accountancy, put those 5 credits in there because they count. The California Board of Accountancy doesn't care where you took the classes at. They don't care what grades you got. All they care about is the hours completed for that, these resources here. So if you're looking at your classes that you took at CSUN, you can still put those classes too, but the 5, just to answer your question, the 5 credit counts, the 5 semester hours count as 5 semester hours going towards the California Board of Accountancy. Okay. Now, like I said, CSUN will only take what CSUN needs because they're, an institution that has to offer you a degree like any other place, but it doesn't mean that you haven't completed those classes at a different school. So you can utilize all those hours. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
No problem. Now, do I have any more questions? I think that was it. If not, please stop me and ask.
I have a quick question.
Of course, Mariana.
For the units that we count, I have the same situation that I come from community college. So if some of the classes I took, they were not transferable, but I took them in community college, such as for business and marketing, would they all count here?
So yes, so if you're taking other classes that, business, marketing, math, whatever courses you took, yes, all of your units count. It doesn't have to come from your bachelor, quote unquote, bachelor degree school, right? Any units that you've taken, and keep in mind this, you can go through school and there's people that go to school that decide to do accounting after they do their bachelor's degree. So you can go to your bachelor's degree, finish the units you have, and if you still have units to complete, you can go to a city college and complete those units as well, right? You can go anywhere to complete those units. So yes, you can use any other units at any other school as long as it's accredited school, all right? And there's information on the accreditation. If you go look at this handbook, and there's information on this, and this right here is the California Board of Accountancy handbook. Everyone should probably keep a copy of this, and you can look it up. If you go to Google, just type CBA handbook or exam handbook, and it'll pop up with all the information you need. So if you want to find out more in regards to going to school at different schools, taking units, this will help you through all that process. But yes, they'd work as well.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. Now, just keep in mind for the educational requirements, the California is a 120 state to sit, or a bachelor's degree, I'd like to say. So in order to sit to take the exam, you have to have a bachelor's degree, and you have to have 24 units of accounting subjects and 24 units of business related subject. Now, keep in mind, these units don't have to come from this bachelor's degree. They can come from any school that you went to. You just have to have a bachelor's degree, right? Now, they say 120 because the minimum for a bachelor's degree is 120 units, semester units. So when they talk about having the 150, which is needed for licensure and is needed for some firms that require it for you to be hired by them. The Big Four have a 150 requirement. Most Big Four, I would say, I'm assuming all of them. I'm not saying that There may be some exceptions, but most of the firms and the big four that I work with require that a student be 150 ready. And that is just to make sure that you're licensure ready and you're not going to school. So if you hear that term, that's where that comes in from. But you can see here, once you have successfully passed all 4 parts of the CPA exam, then you need to have the additional 20 and 10. So that's where the accounting study and then the ethics come in after you pass all 4 parts. So keep in mind, when you're applying to sit for the exam, they're just going to make sure that you have this completion with a bachelor's degree, right? That's all you need to test. So that when you're done and you pass all 4 parts, and that's when the additional 30 come in, that's when your worked hours come in, that's when your state ethics exam comes in, everything else, okay? Any questions on this before I move on? Anything about units or anything that they may need?
Yes, I have a question.
Of course.
Do you know if payroll accounting taken at a community college will qualify for that 24-unit accounting subject?
Now, take this with a grain of salt because I'm not part of the California Board of Accountancy, but I've worked with plenty of students and plenty of professors and with the California Board of Accountancy on those questions. Does the title of the course have accounting in it?
Yes, it's called payroll accounting.
Then you should be fine.
Okay, great. Yeah. Thank you.
So if it normally has accounting in the topic, if it's in the title, because you're looking here that right here, anything accounting subject, it is an accounting subject, it is an accounting course, but you're always safe if it has it in the title. Okay? Perfect.
Great, I think we have that makes sense. Thank you.
Awesome, no problem. Do we have any questions in chat, Amy? Oh, perfect, she's answering them. Yay, okay, so I'll move on. So now know that that California, in order to apply to sit, we are fortunate to have a board of accountancy, right? Now, most states, you can see in the yellow, have boards of accountancies. And I only point out the other states just in case anybody wants to apply for another state and they're just here in California taking school. But if for some reason you're applying for any of these states that are in light blue, you'd have to go through NASBO's website. You can go through NASBO's website for all of them, but just know that certain states don't have board of accountancy, so there's different places that you would have to go to, okay? Now, oh, it did go forward, excuse me, there we go. Now, I just put up a copy of NASBA in Utah. My colleague sent this to me in Utah, he covers it, but this shows you an example of what it looks like when you're going to the website. You would just look it up, you would look up the actual state, and then you can go to apply now, and it'll take you to the exact location that you need to be able to apply at that website. And if you go back to the handbook that I showed, that has all the steps and walks you through how to create a client account, what happens after you get your client account, when you send in your payments for the exams, everything. So it'll walk you through that. Okay, this beauty right here, this beauty paper right here is what you're applying for when you're done, right? This is what we want to get. So when you're applying for the Board of Accountancy, this is the goal, your NTS. This is the form that's going to allow you to take exams. Now, keep in mind that the NTS lasts 9 months in California. So when you receive this, that means that you were good to go, you met the requirements to sit, and you've paid for your exams, and all you have to do is schedule them. And you can see that on here, it's going to tell you all the information necessary for you. The exam sections that you applied for and you're taking. Now, keep in mind that any exams that you put on your NTS from the 9-month issue date, if you pass that 9 months, these exams will be forfeit and you will lose the money for them. So you have to strategize when you go into here applying for it, how many exams realistically can I finish in the next 9 months? You know, you don't want to lose, because it's $225 per exam, right? So you want to make sure that you have the time and manage it. And it'll tell you the latest, it's maybe a little bit hard to see if you're looking on a smaller screen or your phone, but the latest you can take the exam and it'll have the date on here for you. So you'll know exactly what your time frame is. You can always add exams to your NTS, or you can always add exams later. So just keep that in mind, okay? Now, testing windows. The beauty for you guys is there's no more blackout months. There used to be months where we are not allowed, or accountants that were going to sit for the exam were now allowed to take the exam. And there were stipulations on whether you could take the exam right away again if you didn't pass. Now all of that's gone. So you have 4 more months in the year to schedule out and take exams, and you can repeat exams back to back if you need to. So it's a bonus and a plus for anyone that's going through this process, okay? Now, here's an example of a study plan. So I like to be a little bit conservative when we put this together. You can see FARs, someone studying for 3 months. You don't necessarily have to study for 3 months, but that's busy season, right? During January, February, March, where, you know, if you're working for a firm, that you will be busy. It is busy season for a reason. So I just put a little bit non-aggressive study plan for someone that's really kind of, you know, putting their all into work and trying to come home and study. And this just shows you an example that you can get it done within 11 to 12 months, all 4 parts in a non-aggressive schedule. Now you can see audit, we kind of squeezed that in there. That's just because I figured that people would maybe take vacation. It's not as many hours to study for. You can see FAR has the most hours. Now keep in mind, take that with a grain of salt. This 130 to 150 is with the foundation and certain type of classes, and it could differ from person to person. Don't be surprised if you have to put in 200 hours of studying for this exam. The reason why FAR tends to be, quote unquote, the most difficult, it's not because of the type of content, it's because of the amount of content, right? How much you have to cover, how much you have to study, how much you have to remember for this exam. That's why it tends to be a little bit more difficult, because you have to study more. You have more that you have to remember and go into the study. Where audit and BEC, where you can see there's less hours to cover, so you don't need as much. You can always switch audit and BEC. That's a long time to study for BEC. So I'm just saying, you know, just in case someone likes Halloween and they don't want to study during that month or whatever. But just shows you an example that you can stretch it out, you can guide it for yourself. And the reason why I spend a lot of time on this, it is because the study plan, like I said, is the most important part. This is the easiest place where you fail. This is the place where you fail. There's no other place on this where you would fail this exam unless you didn't put the effort in. Now, hopefully you guys take Becker. If you don't, you need to take somebody. You need to take some review course, someplace, something to help you understand this exam. I like to compare this to a fighter. And maybe none of you guys are fighters, but you guys know actual like MMA fighters or boxers. They train and go to the gym every single day, just like any accounting student will go to classes. But when they have a fight coming up, that 2 months before the fight is when they really, really settle in and plan for that fighter. They go over what techniques they want to use. They go over what strategies they're going to use. That fighter is going to hit them back. So what happens if things happen? Think about this exam the same way. This exam is going to hit you back in the face when you're taking it. So when you are taking this exam, that 2 months previous to the exam, that's where you want to kick it into gear, right? Everyone asks me, when should I start studying? When should I do this? Study before you take it, right? Make sure you put in the effort and the time. You know how it is when you guys take exams every single semester. You know what works best. You know that you can't study for an exam 2 months before you take it. You may forget stuff, right? For just a normal exam. Now, if you were taking your final, you would take that 2 months, you know, you'd start studying 2 months. But if you're studying 5 months before a final exam, that's probably not going to do you any good, right? You want to make sure that you dedicate the time before the exam and give you enough time. So I'm done with this, enough preaching. Just know that this is the most important part. And I want every one of you to be successful while you're going through this. Now,
quick question.
Of course, is it Herot? I'm sorry if I pronounced it wrong.
Yeah, no worries. Let's say, for example, you want to take back-to-back FAR tests. So let's say you didn't do good on the first one. Would you need to submit a new NTS, or how would that work?
So you mean going through the process of, say you have an NTS, you have your exam scheduled on your NTS, and you don't pass or something happens and you have to reschedule FAR?
Yeah.
You would have to pay for your, I believe, quote me if I'm wrong, Amy, and let me just make sure I get the correct answer for you. But what I've heard from a student that had to retake it, that the NTS is almost like a hall pass, right? It's only good for a certain amount of time. Once the hall pass is up, you can no longer, you have to reapply for that NTS. As long as you have an active NTS, you can apply for another exam and put it on there.
Yeah, that's what I heard as well. So if your NTS is 9 months and, within that 9 months, if you need to retake FAR or add another exam, I believe, not 100% sure, but I believe that I heard that you can purchase another exam in there, but please keep in mind, if you are like 8 months into your NTS, it would be best if you purchase a new NTS, so that way you don't have to, you basically are not left with 1 month left in taking that exam that you just purchased.
Got it. That makes sense. Thank you.
No problem. But just take that and make sure that when you do that, make sure you find it out. Things could change. I mean, what I tell you today could be different in a year. Especially with everything with COVID, it could be different. So just make sure when you're going through that process, either reach out to us again or follow up with, the California Board of Accountancy, just to make sure on your end. Okay. But great question. Now, when you have your NTS, I showed you that's the baby that we need, right? This is where you would go to schedule your exam. So you basically would go to prometric.com and you would schedule your exam through this website. Now, you would have all the information on the NTS on how to do that. Now, keep that in mind. Now, hopefully this COVID world will be over by the time you guys get there. But if it's not, make sure you keep yourself informed and up to date on all the changes and all the testing centers that are open or closed, information about seating, if you have to wear a mask, everything that we're doing nowadays to deal with what's going on. Just make sure that you understand that that you're prepared for it, because one of the things is you're going to be sitting in this testing center for 4 hours taking this exam. You're not going to be able, and I'm sure Amy will cover that here in a second. I'm going to let her take over, but you're going to be wearing a mask the whole time if you're in COVID. You're going to be separated by seats. There's a lot of different things. So make sure you prepare yourself when you're studying for this. We always tell students, part of this exam of taking it and passing it is not just the knowledge that you have, but the strategy on how much time you should spend on questions, how much time you should spend on a certain testlet. Put yourself in the actual environment as if you were testing. So when you're taking mock exams, sit there for 4 hours without your phone, because you're not allowed to have your phone next to you. Take your phone, put it away, turn it off for 4 hours and take this exam. I don't think there's any emergency that you can't get to if you don't need to after 4 hours. But just put yourself in that environment so the fatigue, the feeling that it would feel like to go through it. Because, the worst thing to do is get there on test day and not be prepared. Like I say, fighters prepare themselves the 2 months before. It's exactly what you need to do. So now I will let Amy take over for a second.
All right. Thanks so much, Xavier, and for hopping on at the very last minute.
I have to stay on to move the slides though, so I can't.
Perfect. Good. Okay, so going over some study tips, since Xavier had gone over, applying for the CPA and the educational requirements and what you need in order to sit. So on the day of you taking your CPA, make sure that you bring a copy of your notice of schedule, a valid ID. I believe you might need 2 forms of ID, but in your notice of schedule or your appointment for that day, you have to print your notice schedule, and they'll tell you exactly what you need as well. So bring your notice schedule, your ID, and then on top of that, don't bring any personal items that you won't be needing for that day. You could leave it at home, leave it in the car, just because if you bring personal items and things that they won't let you bring it into the testing room, they make you put everything in a locker. So make sure you actually go to the Prometric Center early too on the day of testing. Go at least 30 minutes earlier. If not, you can go at least 45 minutes or an hour earlier. Just, you can hang out and just kind of relax. The reason why we say that you want to go earlier is because, checking your ID, putting your personal items in the locker, they also make you scan fingerprints. In the day of, sometimes some of the Prometric centers make you go through metal detectors. But if there's any questions or you need any help, the Prometric staff would be able to help you out with any issues or anything like that too. So a lot of times, if you're taking an exam and you need to go use the restroom during your break, they would have to escort you out as well too. So you can't just get up and leave. I heard that at some of the sites, if you were taking an exam and you need to go use the restroom or take a break, because you do get a 15-minute break. They actually check your pockets and everything as well too. So make sure you don't bring any unnecessary items. You are not allowed to bring a calculator, but pre-COVID, you know, if you don't like using a calculator that they provide for you on the screen in the computer, then you could request for a plastic calculator. But as of right now, during this whole COVID time, they're not allowed to give you any the calculators, physical calculators. So you can schedule your exams on prometric.com. That's where you go to schedule your exam. You can check which testing centers are available around you. If you guys are, you know, traveling, or if you guys, you know, decide to go stay at a different state or different location during that time that you're testing, you can actually sit and take the exam at different location as well. So if you guys were in like Utah hanging out and you're still studying and want to take your exams, especially if you don't want to delay your exams, you can actually sit at in Utah. So take the exam actually. So as long as you apply for California or whichever state that you're residing in, you can actually, you know, still take the exam at different state. All right, so a little bit about this exam overview. So in the exam, you do need a passing score of 75 on a 0 to 99 scale. So anything over 75 would be a passing score. But unfortunately, they won't give you that 100%, you know, not percent, but 100. So the max you can get is a 99. The exam can be taken in any state or jurisdiction, like I mentioned. And there's 4 parts of the exam. So there's financial, audit, regulation, and BEC. Each of them are 4 hours long. And you do have to pass all four parts within 18 months. So that very first part, that very first like 18 months starts when you pass your very first part. So in any case, you know, knock on wood, if you guys don't pass the very first part, then that 18-month does not start yet. And you have to pass all 4 within that 18 months. If you guys don't, then the very first one drops off and you have to retake it. So think of it as all of them have to be valid. They can't expire within that 18 months, and you have to have them all valid at the same time. In each exam, there are 5 different testlets, 2 of them multiple choice question, 3 are task-based simulations, and if you take a look at the very last testlet, the TBS WC, so in BEC, the very last exam for a very last testlet of BEC, it will be written communication. So in the written communication, they give you a scenario that you write a no to a fellow colleague, to a client. It's just to grade you to see how well, you know, you can write professionally. So they don't really grade you on like whether your answer is right or not, but opposed to what your grammar's like and if you can compose the note or a letter to professionally. Between test number 3 and 4, notice how it says off the clock break of 15 minutes. So between test number 3 and 4, you can take, you know, a 15-minute off the clock break, use the restroom, grab snack, relax a little bit. This doesn't mean that, you know, between test number 2 and 3, if you guys need to use the restroom, grab a drink, you guys won't be able to. It's just that you guys can still do that, but it just runs against your 4-hour time frame. So this is what it looks like when you are taking the exam, and on top of that, staying with Becker for the multiple choice question. Notice how the top left, it says auditing mock exams. So you guys, when you guys are doing the mock exams, they're, you know, completely like 4 hours long, just like the exam, exact same structure and questions. So you see how well you do on the exams. If you get like a 70, 75, you guys are pretty much good to go on that. But notice how in the multiple choice questions, there is 36 questions on here, and then some of them have the orange little bookmark sign. So you can bookmark it, you know, move on to the next question and then go back to that question. But make sure that you answer every single question to your best ability before you submit the testlet, because once you submit the testlet and you go to testlet number 2, unfortunately, you won't be able to go back to that previous testlet. It's as if, you know, you turn in an exam. And notice how it has the calculator and Microsoft Excel for you as a tool for you to work on it. So this is what it looks like when you're doing the task-based simulation. Be sure that you do, when you do the mock exams, be sure that you familiarize yourself with the task-based simulations, just because there's so much more tools and so much more like things to navigate through, so you can open the exhibits. So they're all confirmation letters. You know, you read through all of them, the exhibits. They provide you authoritative literature, so that way you are you can find the codifications, do your research on there, and then you fill in the answer for that before you move on. So there's 3 questions to this task-based simulation testlet. Next slide. So a little bit about the exam structure for financial. The expected study time is about 130 to 150 hours with a foundation of intermediate and advanced accounting classes. So notice how Xavier had mentioned that, you know, usually financial has, basically you want to start that first, and because it takes up the most time, right? So a lot of students try to do it financial first. Some people think it's the hardest one just because it contains so much more material. So, you know, imagine all your beginner, intermediate, advanced accounting classes all put into one. All those semesters that you guys took basically all in one exam, right? So a lot of students, they like to take this exam first just because it starts, you know, before your 18-month, they don't want it to be within your 18-month time frame. So when financial, you have 66 multiple choice question and 8 task-based simulations. You don't want to spend any more than, you know, 1.5 to 2 minutes on each multiple choice question, and no more than 15 to 20 minutes on each task-based simulations. Please keep in mind that you might want to spend about, you know, maybe 90 minutes on all the multiple choice question and 150 minutes on task-based simulations. So when you're taking the exam, make sure that on each testlet you set like a time frame for yourself and work on your time management strategy. So for audit, the expected study time is about 80 to 100 hours with a foundation auditing and advanced auditing classes. It does contain an evaluation, so give you a document for you to evaluate. That is 5 to 15% of your grade. You only see evaluation on audit. It has 72 multiple choice question and 8 task-based simulation, and the time frame is about the same for financial and audit. Regulation, for those of you guys who are in tax, expected study time is about 100 to 120 hours with a foundation of federal tax and business law. It does contain 76 multiple choice questions and 8 task-based simulations. I believe this one has the most multiple choice questions in there. Last but not least, for business BEC, expected study times 80 to 100 hours with a foundation of cost and management accounting classes. In econ, information system, this is the one that has written communication. So in the last test set, they give you 3 written communication tasks, and it has 4 task-based simulations and 62 multiple choice questions.
And just to add one last thing to this, you know, these exam structures, we always tell students to possibly bookend FAR and BEC. Now, but there is no rhyme or reason what exam you should take first or not. It's just normal that students have a little bit more time at the beginning when they're starting to study because it's the summertime or whatever. So we always tell them to do FAR because it'll allow them to have more time. But if your last semester you're taking an audit course or tax course, you may want to switch that up and maybe have audit as your first exam just because it'll kind of lean straight into the exam. So just keep that in mind. There's no rhyme or reason, but this is pretty much the order we tell students to take this exam in. So we tell them to do FAR, audit, regulation, BEC, just so you know.
Thanks, Xavier.
No problem. I'm not sure if there's a question.
No questions on the group chat. Oh, okay. So with Becker, we're the leaders in CPA prep for over 60 years. We have over 1 million candidates that actually study with Becker and pass with Becker. We're partnered with all the top 100 accounting firms. So if you get hired with maybe like PwC, Deloitte, all the top 100 accounting firms, most of the time they would actually pay for you to study with Becker. Most of the time they even pay for your application, your exams, your review course. We're also partnered with over 2,900 accounting firms, corporations, alliances, you know, and universities such as CSUN. We actually have an exclusive partnership with CSUN as well too in your MAC program. So if you get, you know, go into the Master of Accountancy program, so you'll be using Becker as well. And how many of you guys have heard of the Watsels Award? Anybody? No? Yeah. So 90% of the Watsels Award winners prepare with Becker. So remember how I said that in order to pass the CPA exam, you need a score of 75 or higher. So in order to get the Watsels Award, you do need an average score of all 4 parts, passing all 4 parts for the very first time, and an average score of 95.5 or higher. Something that we're super proud of is because, you know, a lot of students ask us what our pass rate is, and it's kind of hard to get what the pass rates are because we would have to send out surveys. So, and not everyone answers surveys. So something that we go by is the Watsels Award, because if you do get the Watsels Award, your name is publicly announced. The AICPA, you know, comes up with a whole list every year, and we look at those lists and see who studies with Becker. And 90% of those winners actually, you know, come from Becker students. And we come up with some kind of party with them, and give them some sort of plaque as well.
It's funny, Amy. I don't really go over this slide. I just say we're number one because it's easy. I just say we're number one. So if you're taking Becker, you're taking the number one review provider. But as long as you take something, right? Take something to help yourself, prepare yourself for the most difficult exams that you're going to take. We hope you take Becker. Becker is number one, but you know, you got to do what is best for you as a student.
You skip over one.
Oh, sorry. This button stuck. Hold on.
That's cool.
There we go.
All right. So something I want to mention is that we have personalized learning. So we partner with Santa Labs, which is an AI company. So you know how when you're listening to Spotify, so Spotify actually partnered up with Santa Labs as well. So you know how when you're listening to music and somehow you get like similar music and music that you might like. So we do the same, but not as listening to music on your Becker platform, but as opposed to, you know, more personalized learning, right? So depending on when you're doing your modules and each unit, it tells you your proficiency level and how well you do on each different topic, basically. So if you were to go back, you can definitely, you know, do more questions that you're not very familiar with. So that way, you know, you're working towards improving yourself instead of doing all the same questions and things that you already know. So we don't waste your time on those. And on top of that, we have something called like Skill Master video as well. So they're like short YouTube-like videos where, you know how when you look on YouTube when you don't know how to do something, you know, fixing a faucet, whatever it is. We have something similar, but for task-based simulations. So when you're going through each question on task-based simulation, whether you know how to do it or not, or you want to check if that was the correct way to find the answer, you can actually click on the Skill Master videos and it'll run you through each problem as well too. So it'll go over, you know, how to do it and run you through the whole steps. So you guys can try us out. We do have a demo, which is a 2-week demo. You just go on becker.com/CPA demo and see how well you guys like it. All right, well, you guys have any questions, you guys can feel free to email me or Xavier as well. These are our contact info. I do represent CSUN, so if you want to, you know, contact me about, you know, any specials or anything like that as well, you guys can reach out to me. But if you want to talk to Xavier too, his information is right there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see how wasn't I ready for this? It's so funny because in NorCal, I always give everyone's Amy information because they may go down there. Same thing. If you are coming up or thinking about coming up to Northern California, if there's something that you want to look at in terms of your units, credits, if you're looking at the tip sheet, which we went over the requirements and we went over it a little bit fast, if there's something that you need an explanation, reach out to Amy and I will happy to set a schedule with you or a calendar. We send out a calendar invite so you can schedule a half-hour appointment with us, and then we can cover whatever questions you may have one-on-one. So that way you can make sure you plan out your classes or whatever you're doing correctly. Okay. But no, we appreciate the time. We're here for a couple minutes if you guys have questions or if anybody wants to say anything or suggest anything or, you know, whatever you guys need to get through this, we're here to help, or at least try. Because me and Amy may need jobs later and you guys will be working at these big firms. So don't be surprised if we reach out to you later. I'm just kidding. Hopefully not. Hopefully not.
I thought you were joking when you put my information on your presentation. Apparently it is. I was so shocked to see my name on there.
Nope, I have it here.
Cool. Well, does anyone have any questions?
I have something, but it's not a question. Could you please go back to the slides when you have the breakdown for each exam, how many multiple choice questions? I would like to have the screenshot.
We can send it out to you. If you send us an email, I'll send you a copy of this PowerPoint presentation, or whoever's in charge, whoever can get it out to everybody. I don't mind sending them a PDF of this, so that way you can have this. This is important information, you're right, because it talks about, and we didn't really discuss the skill level, but when you take the course with Becker, there's certain skills that you can improve in order to answer questions, whether it be multiple choice or task-based. So this is just talking about the type of skill that you would need and the percentage on the exam. But when you go through Becker, we do skill techniques on your course through. You know, there's certain skills that you would practice to help you improve that. So when you get to the exam, you have that technique better. Just like I say, think about it like a fighter, right? They're going to give someone a technique to improve on, maybe it's wrestling or whatever, any little thing to help you pass this thing so you don't ever have to take it again. Right. So that's what we try to do.
Let me see. I think I could attach a file on here. So I'm sending everyone the our pamphlet, basically, our brochure. So that's all the information you'll be needing right there. So I think it has even more of a breakdown.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Good question, though. Thank you for asking that.
I have a question.
Oh, good. I was going to say, I think we were that good, Ibrahim, but
yeah,
we weren't.
Well, actually, let me, the 9 months window, the NTS, I believe I missed something. Do you recommend that we are better to, purchase for the exam and, the schedule for the exam, everything to not to lose it in 9 months, or should we go one by one? For example,
I always tell my students to at least schedule 2, right? Because you got to think about this. I've had students that have completed this exam within 3 months, right? 2 months, if that. So there are things that you can do. If you're scheduling one at a time, then you're kind of, in my mind, and I say kind of like I'm straight from California, I think that you are not motivating or pushing yourself to get one done after the other. I always tell students to have 2 scheduled. And the reason why is because if you have 2 scheduled, say I take FAR, here, let me go to the calendar. So say I take FAR here at the beginning of January, and then I have my second one scheduled, here, just say in April or whatever. If for some reason I don't pass this exam, I still have this one scheduled, but I could have time to maybe reschedule this exam here or put another one in here. I always have 2 scheduled. So if I do, this one's already passed and I didn't pass it, then I schedule another one. But if I did pass this one, then I have audit coming up, then I would schedule regulation. So I always have one on deck. That's how because then you could always work around one exam versus having all 4 or all 3 scheduled or just one, right? I just think that you should have 2. That way your mind is set for, I'm getting 2 exams done within the next 3 months. And then once I pass the first one and get my score, then that's when I'm going to schedule my next one. That's how I tell students to do it. But like I said, there's no rhyme or reason. You can schedule all of them. You can schedule one at a time, whatever's going to work best for your study planning and your habits, right? This is about you. We can give you advice. We can give you any type of thing that we hear from other people, but you know your life better than anybody else. So I would just stick to what you feel you're comfortable with.
Okay.
Yeah, and on top of that, I think if you do one by one, you're not really you're less motivated to hold yourself accountable of passing it all within the 18 months. So if you do like 2 different NTS, it would be basically perfect. So you go by 2 by 2.
Unless you're throwing a buffet every time you pass and you invite us, I'm good with that. Then we'll go ahead and some type of food, any type of food. But yeah, no, that's a great question though.
Thank you very much.
Of course, no problem. Is it Ibrahim?
Yes, Ibrahim.
Perfect.
You got it.
Perfect. Any other questions? And if not, no worries. Like I said, you can send us an email with your questions afterwards or set up a time. I know it's a little bit, this is a lot of information to cover, and especially me and Amy, we're sharing 2 things. And so if you guys want to reach out to us later, that's absolutely fine as well. Okay, I'm gonna going once, going twice.
Hold on, I have a question.
Oh, good, good. Yes. No, I'm glad we have time.
Okay, so do you have any special deal for seasoned student?
Amy, I'll let you take this one. Any
Yeah,
special?
so currently we don't have any special running. We're working on that right now with Rishma. But if you guys are ready to basically, study for the CPA exam and want to enroll, definitely let me know, and then we can, see if, if you have any like offer from any firms that pays for it, or there's any other discounts that we can provide you. I'll find you the best price possible. Hopefully you don't have to pay anything out of pocket and some firm pays for it.
Yeah, we'll look into what you have, and then we'll try to give you the best thing possible. There may be other schools that we have partnerships that you attended. There's certain things that we can do. So if you're looking at it, but we have a sale right now going on that's pretty good too. So just do your research with us, and we'll be glad to walk you step by step. Good question though. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we're good, Amy. I think we're fantastic here. Like,
we should just partner up with all of the every single presentation.
Right, all the way from Sacktown to LA. So if you guys have any questions, like I said, please reach out. Like I said, we work with other students. Even if you just want to go over your plan a little bit and talk to us, we'll be happy to just walk you through it, guide you through it. Okay. Perfect. Well, it was nice meeting everybody. I hope that you guys have a great semester, right, CSUN?
Yes.
Okay. I hope you guys have a great semester and everything goes well. And hopefully you guys will be back on campus pretty soon, partying it up.
Thanks, Xavier.
All right, no problem. You guys take care.
All right, thanks everyone.